Hi, this is a message for the residents of the state of Arizona. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey sits on the board of TGen. TGen is a company that has financial interest in COVID-19 testing and a COVID-19 vaccine. Recently, an article broke claiming that Arizona Governor sits on board of group doing testing. Search that article and read that article. You'll find this discussing a stunning conflict of interest done by Patrick Howley. Good job, sir. It discusses how Ducey presides over legislator-approved state emergency spending and also a portion of his state's $1.5 billion from the federal government. The same government discussed here. I'll give it to you in brief. Before everyone weighs in on this email, I would like to relay some information we found out yesterday from legal counsel. Yay for lawyers. If this resolution passes, the governor's emergency declaration will end. That means Arizona will get to keep the COVID money we have received to date, but will not be entitled to all of the millions of FEMA or DEMA funds. Regarding the science, you claim to use science for your home isolation and business closure orders. However, the science released by the Department of Homeland Defense National Biosecurity Lab suggests something to the contrary.
So we measure it in half-life, because half-life doesn't change. So if you look at an 18-hour half-life, what you're basically saying is that every 18 hours, the life of the virus is cut in half. So if you start with 1,000 particles of the virus, in 18 hours, you're down to 500. In 18 hours after that, you're down to 250, and so on and so forth. That's important as I explain the rest of the chart. If you look at the first three lines, when you see the word surface, we're talking about non-porous surfaces, door handles, stainless steel. And if you look at as the temperature increases and as the humidity increases with no sun involved, you can see how drastically the half-life goes down on that virus. So the virus is dying at a much more rapid pace just from exposure to higher temperatures and just from exposure to humidity. If you look at the fourth line, you inject the sunlight into that, you inject UV rays into that. The same effects on line 2 at 70 to 75 degrees with 80% humidity on the surface, and look at line 4, but now you inject the sun, the half-life goes from 6 hours to 2 minutes. That's how much of an impact the UV rays has on the virus. The last two lines are aerosols. What does it do in the air? We have a very unique capability. I was discussing this with the president prior to coming out. He wanted me to convey it to you on how we do this. I believe we're the only lab in the country that has this capability. But if you can imagine a Home Depot bucket, a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket, we're able to take a particle, and this was developed and designed by our folks at the NBAC. We're able to take a particle of the virus and suspend it in the air inside of this drum and hit it with various temperatures, various humidity levels, multiple different kinds of environmental conditions to include sunlight. And we're able to measure the decay of that virus while it's suspended in the air. This is how we do our aerosol testing. We work with Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, and we actually developed a larger drum to do actually more testing, and it's 4 times the size of that. So this is the capability that we bring to this effort. So in summary, within the conditions we've tested to date, the virus in droplets of saliva survives best in indoors and dry conditions. The virus does not survive as well in droplets of saliva, and that's important because a lot of testing being done is not necessarily being done, number 1, with the COVID-19 virus, and number 2, in saliva or respiratory fluids. And thirdly, the virus dies the quickest in the presence of direct sunlight under these conditions. And when you look at that chart, look at the aerosol as you breathe it. You put it in a room, 70 to 75 degrees, 20% humidity, low humidity. The half-life is about an hour. But you get outside and it cuts down to a minute and a half. Very significant difference when it gets hit with UV rays. Mr. President, while there are many unknown links in the COVID-19 transmission chain, we believe these trends can support practical decision-making to lower the risks associated with the virus. If I could have my next slide, and while that comes up.
Heat and humidity suppress COVID-19 indoors and outdoors. Move activities outside. Sunlight impedes virus transmission. Commonly available disinfectants, bleach, and isopropyl alcohol work to kill the virus. Moving on. From the same study, I've enlarged it to make it easier to read when I scroll down in a second. Bear with me. Just want to show everybody where it's coming from. SARS-CoV-2 is believed to be spread through close contact droplet transmission, with fomite transmission likely and close contact aerosol transmission plausible but unconfirmed. Extensive contamination of patient rooms indicates the potential for airborne transmission, though to date, infectious virus has not been isolated from aerosol samples. From the CDC. Conclusions. In addition, our findings suggest that home isolation of persons with suspected COVID-19 might not be a good control strategy. Family members usually do not have personal protective equipment and lack professional training, which easily leads to familial cluster infections. According to the latest CDC COVID View report, increases in hospitalization rates for COVID-19, which are cumulative, have started to level off. The hospitalization rate is highest among adults 65 and older, and similar to what has been seen during a comparable time period during a recent high-severity flu. I suggest everybody contact Arizona Governor Doug Ducey in regards to his involvement with TGen. This email from Fan. This readily available science from the Department of Homeland Security. This readily available science from the Department of Homeland Security. This readily available science from the Centers for Disease Control Infectious Diseases Journal. This from the CDC's page. Again, I suggest all Arizona residents contact Governor Doug Ducey and let him know your feelings about this. Thank you. Stay safe, Arizona. Common sense will get us through this.